Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Switch 2 Ultra Detailed Alternative Development Timeline. Concept. Disclaimer. This document is a fictional, speculative development history. It blends real-world Nintendo structure, Masahiro Sakurai's publicly known workload, and the hypothetical Nintendo Switch 2 generation into a cohesive alternate timeline. 2018. Immediate post-launch reflection. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate launches in December 2018 to massive critical and commercial success. Internally, Nintendo leadership quickly recognizes Ultimate as the most ambitious crossover game ever produced by the company. A potential creative ceiling for the franchise. Within Nintendo EPD, a post-mortem task force is formed to analyze development bottlenecks caused by the enormous roster, balance patchwork load and community expectations. Long-term sustainability of licensing agreements. Masahiro Sakurai expresses concern internally that repeating Ultimate scale would be physically and mentally unsustainable. 2019. Exploratory RD-Wild DLC is in full swing. Fighters Pass Volume 1 enters full production. A very small technical team begins low-priority RD on improving collision detection accuracy, reducing input latency beyond Ultimate's baseline, modularizing fighter logic to reduce future balance overhead. Early whiteboard discussions introduced the idea of folding all future DLC fighters into a single, definitive base game, ending the Fighters Pass model for the next title. The next Smash project exists only as an internal concept label, not an active production. 2020, strategic slowdown. Pandemic impact. COVID-19 forces Nintendo to reorganize development pipelines. Smash Ultimate's DLC work absorbs nearly all experienced Smash developers. Nintendo leadership intentionally halts any sequel pre-production to avoid overworking key staff, prevent premature design decisions during uncertain hardware planning. Sakurai begins to privately consider stepping away from full-time Smash direction. 2021, end of Ultimate philosophical reset. Fighters Pass Volume 2 concludes, completing Ultimate's post-launch support. Nintendo conducts extensive internal reviews focused on what made Smash feel right moment to moment. How much of that depended on Sakurai personally? A confidential internal document outlines 3 future paths. Reboot Smash with a smaller roster. Continue Ultimate-style Smash without Sakurai directing. Pause the franchise for an extended period. Nintendo chooses Path 2, but delays execution. 2022. Incubation phase. Knowledge preservation. Sakurai launches Masahiro Sakurai on creating games. Nintendo quietly treats the channel as a long-term archive of Smash design philosophy. Required viewing for younger EPD designers. Smash enters a formal incubation phase, with activities limited to roster feasibility spreadsheets, long-term licensing risk analysis, competitive scene feedback synthesis. No engine or asset production occurs this year. 2023, succession planning. Kirby Air Riders. Sakurai begins directing Kirby Air Riders. Nintendo EPD initiates Smash leadership succession planning, identifying systems designers capable of inheriting balance responsibilities. Producers skilled in third-party negotiations. Early Switch 2 hardware specs are shared with select EPD teams. Smash is quietly re-evaluated as a next-generation flagship, not a cross-gen title. 2024, full platform shift to Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo officially commits the next Smash game to Nintendo Switch 2 internally. Technical goals are defined. Locked 60 FPS in all modes, significantly improved online netcode, faster load times to encourage rematches and competitive play. Smash development resources are constrained as roughly half of EPD's action-focused staff assist in finishing a major 3D Mario title. Smash work remains pre-production only. Early and mid-2025, holding pattern technical experiments. Engineers prototype. Revised physics calculations for heavier characters, improved camera behavior for large stages, Joy-Con 2 latency improvements. Designers draft extensive moveset documentation without implementation. Nintendo leadership delays full production until Sakurai completes Kirby Air Riders. December 2025, full production begins. Kirby Air Riders releases in November 2025. In December 2025, Smash officially enters full production. Key decisions finalized. Nintendo EPD is sole developer. No external co-developer like Bandai Namco. Masahiro Sakurai is not director. Sakurai agrees to quarterly playtests, high-level creative feedback. A new leadership structure is installed. Game Director, EPD, Lead Combat Designer, Online Infrastructure Director. 2026, Core Systems, Engine Finalization Roster Lock Engine Systems. Ultimate's engine is heavily refactored rather than replaced. Improvements include cleaner hitbox visualization tools, reduced animation and lag across the roster, more consistent physics at high player counts. Roster finalization. Mid-2026, Nintendo locks the roster earlier than any prior Smash title. Roster includes entire Smash Ultimate roster, including all DLC. New first-party fighters, Waluigi, Toad, new Poké copyright Moan. Fan-requested and strategic third-party fighters, Isaac, Geno, Shovel Knight, Rayman, Dr. Eggman, Shadow, Crash Bandicoot, Bomberman, Sans, Goku. Sakurai playtests early builds and flags, over-designed movesets, moves that lack visual clarity. 2027, character completion, licensing reveal character production. Animators and combat designers work in parallel pipelines. Third-party characters require separate approval milestones. More accurate move validation, licensing. Nintendo secures long-term agreements to avoid character removals. Emphasis placed on franchise longevity rather than one-off hype. Announcement. Game revealed in a Nintendo Direct. 2027. Messaging focuses on no paid fighters. Entire Ultimate Legacy preserved. Switch 2 Performance Leap. 2028. Stage development. Modes Polish. Stage development begins in earnest after character completion. New stages leverage dynamic lighting, larger scale environments, modes expanded, enhanced classic mode routes, improved training tools, tournament-ready spectator systems. 2029, balancing, testing launch. Global balance testing begins early 2029. Sakurai participates in final playtests, focusing on overall flow. Online stress tests conducted worldwide. Release, mid-late 2029. Super Smash Bros. Launches on Nintendo Switch 2. Marketed as the ultimate Smash experience, a successful transition beyond Sakurai's direct leadership. Long-term impact, establishes Nintendo EPD as permanent Smash custodian, reduces reliance on post-launch DLC, sets a sustainable model for future Smash entries.